I wanted to mention, I had every opportunity to be in Vegas. We sponsored a booth, bought a table, the whole deal. And then, as you can tell, I'm sick as hell and was not able to make the trip. So I missed Conan getting his big induction. I missed Lawler getting his big induction. I missed Layfield getting his big induction. Would have loved to have been there for all that, but mostly would have loved to have been there to see you accept an award posthumously on behalf of your grandmother, Teeny. How was your Cauliflower Alley Club experience? What can you share with us?
I stood on the stage. That was my first experience. And look, I've heard about the Cauliflower Alley Club for years and years. And, you know, everybody has something in their mind what to expect. You know, walking into that massive ballroom and it's full, and, you know, of not just wrestling fans, but fans that appreciate history, and that's at their forefront. It was, I hate to say this, heartwarming. But of course, you know, the names Kevin Sullivan, J.J. Dillon, Ricky and Robert, Lawler, Jimmy Hart. Gosh, I mean, there were so many of the guys that I got to see. I got to see Owen's brother, Ross. Even Karen wasn't aware. She's like, yeah. And I said, so in chronological order, it went Ross, then Diana, who was married to Davy Boy, then Owen. So Owen was the baby, but Ross and Owen were real close in age. When he walked past me and we did a double take. Obviously, you know, we surprised each other. Conrad, it made me feel so good to have a good conversation with him. And we caught up on so many different things. So it was awesome. I mean, I don't even know where to start, but, you know, accepting that award, it goes without saying, and I said it, I don't think I'll get emotional today, but I've gone process all that. But, you know, my grandmother holds a real special place in a lot of folks' hearts, I found out, but I was aware of that. But, you know, when I went and I flew out there, Conrad, and putting my notes together for what I was going to say, and the, you know, give the speech and all that, and going through dates. She was 23 when she took that second job selling records of tickets, and she was, and so my aunt, so my Teeny had two kids, my dad and a daughter. So my Aunt Carolyn, she was there, and I kind of rechecked some notes, and she goes, Jeff, when she went out into the workforce, she was the breadwinner, not only for me and your father, you know, her Teeny and her two kids, but she's one of five kids. She's the middle child. She was the breadwinner for her brothers and sisters and her parents and kids. She was the one that had, you know, and the theme of my speech, Conrad, I won't re-say it, but it was about responsibility. That's what Teeny, you know, if I had to drill it down into one thing, she taught me responsibility, that you are responsible for your life, your decisions. It's on you. And she was the one out of, you know, again, one of five, that she took responsibility to provide not just for herself and her kids, but her parents and her siblings, and to work her way out of. And I said, how would you classify your family? And I don't want to say it wrong. Is it lower middle class? Is it upper low class, or whatever it may be? She goes, we never went without a meal, but we came awful close lots and lots of times. So I said, okay, do you care if I kind of frame it that way? And she said, no, go to right. So that was the picture. And at 31 years of age, you just think about it, Conrad. Columbia, Tennessee, 45 miles south of Nashville, that was her town. So she was the promoter of record for Nick Goulas at 31 years of age. And in her 40s, she started running Louisville, or taking care of it. She was the promoter of record, became friends with Cornette's mom, Thelma, Louisville and Evansville and Lexington, and, you know, all through the night. Anyway, I could go on, and I won't, I'll wrap this up. But Conrad, it was a really, really special night. I am so glad that I got to be there. I got to see Lawler, and he was a great storyteller, and he told his stories, and Ricky and Robert did a great job, and Tommy Wildfire Rich, Doug Gilbert inducted him, and Tommy's Tommy, man. If you closed your eyes and heard him say a couple of lines, it took me right back to Georgia Championship Wrestling. And he talks about timing and cable TV and Ted Turner and taking a walk down memory lane in so many ways. And, you know, as the night wore on, there were two seats next to me, Conrad, and I'll go ahead and finish with this story. because I still feel so bad about it.
Well, listen, before you do, I just want to say, I know that as much fun and pride as you felt, and certainly Karen felt, just hearing everybody go on and talk about the importance of Memphis wrestling and women in wrestling, and specifically his own mother, I know for sure that your dad was just loving every minute of it, just eating it up. I mean, talking about the history of wrestling and how important it was, and his own mom, your dad had to be just beaming at your elbow. This had to be almost like confirmation of everything that he's worked for in his life. And I just hate that I wasn't there to just look over and see your dad grinning like a possum through this whole thing.
Well, I actually, Conrad, you think you hate it. I hate it multiples of that, because the ballroom, up the tables up front, they were all spread out, but across the front row, there were 2 seats next to me. You talk about you hate not getting to see him grin like a Cheshire cat. I did as well, because the 2 seats open next to me I went up and did my speech and came back. And then that's when I, literally started texting away to Karen. Call my dad, call my step.
Wait, what do you mean?
He was not there. I said he was not in the room. He was in Vegas. He wasn't in the room, Conrad. And I just kind of like, the cocktail hour started at 5. Of course, he's going to miss that. Dinner started at 6. Could give her, he eat when he wants to. And I'm like, okay, he's kind of missing. The award started at 7. We accepted the second award. There's a great journalism award. Greg Oliver presented Steve Johnson. It was really a cool night. But so I accepted the award and went through all that and did the photo ops and all that. And I sat back down and picked my phone back up because I didn't take it with me on stage. And I went to call and I said, Karen, call Dad, call Deborah, make sure. And she's just like, what? They're not there? So anyway, she called and called and called. And finally, Deborah, my stepmother, picked up the phone. Hello.
What?
And Karen was like, Deborah, are you asleep? She said, yes, we've had such a long day. Conrad, they slept through the awards.
Oh my gosh. They flew to Vegas to take a nap.
Well, hold on. So my dad was sorry, he wrote it down wrong in his calendar. And, I had it in my calendar from 6 months ago, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then when it got close, I put in Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Well, he didn't get that memo. And he was thinking it was because they had a Q&A about my grandmother on Wednesday at 1. And then the awards banquet where Conan and JBL and others accepted the awards on Wednesday night. He thought it was a Wednesday night deal. So the best part of the story, if there is on this part, is so Ricky and Robert, all through their speech, they gave Jarrett shout out after shout out, great story. And Jimmy Hart did it a couple of times. Tommy Rich looked right over at me and said, well, I got to look at you because if your daddy ain't here, but I got to say it. If Jarrett would not have seen something in me, there ain't a chance in hell I'd be on this stage. Matter of fact, there's not a chance in hell I'd be even in the business. Tommy's originally from Hendersonville, this hometown. So Tommy really gave, and Ricky and Robert did too. And Ricky was really special because Ricky said this story that when Nick and my dad had their split, Paul Morton was a Nick Goulas guy. He ref for Nick Goulas. He pulled the ring for Nick Goulas. He was a Nick Goulas guy. And when Paul had kind of run his course, Ricky's in high school. Paul and my father and my dad's like, hell yeah, Baldy. That's what they called him. Come work. And so my grandmother always loved Paul Morton. So, Paul Morton came to work for the Jarretts, and Ricky's like, it touched him, yes, because of the history between Lawler and my dad and Rock and Roll Express and the formation of that gimmick and everything. But the fact that Ricky said these words, Christine Jarrett made a dream come true for my father, and I'll never forget it. That was that hit me. That hit me. It was emotional. But before Lawler went up, he was the last one of the night to accept an award. I went up, went down, jumped down 2 tables, and I said, hey, Jerry, I think I'm gonna throw this in your court, but we got a ballroom full of folks, and they've alluded to my old man over here time after time after time about Memphis wrestling. He goes, "Yeah, what the F is going on?" And I said, "You ready for this, King?" He just looked at me and I said, "He slept through it. They're in Vegas, but they ain't in this room." He said, "Oh my God." I said, "Jerry, you cover it however you want." So Jerry, as you can imagine, eloquently let the room know that he was asleep, but then he went into some cool stories. And I mean, Conrad, the whole night was really, really special. And I didn't expect that. I had a vision in my mind of what Cauliflower Alley Club was. And it has, I don't think that'll be my one and only appearance. It was really, really cool, really, really special. President Brian Blair and my cousin, which is my first cousin, his mom was, Brennan Martin. He wrote the book, but he also is the one who inducted me. And he's, in a lot of ways, it's become a life passion. My grandmother's in a couple of different Hall of Fames, but writing that book, and he's a historian on it. So it's a special night, Conrad. We probably need to get to our topic here, but it was really, really cool. But
before we do, I want to remind everybody, you can't believe this is real. Tonight on Vice, Tales from the Territories, when wrestling was real, the Memphis story. It airs tonight on Vice. Go out of your way to watch it. It's the creators,
Yeah.
Creators of Dark Side of the Ring, and $7 production, The Rock and Danny Garcia, his former wife, and of course, friend of the show, Brian Geewertz, as Doc Hendricks would call him. They put together something pretty special. I had a chance to see it ahead of time. I know you haven't had a chance to review it yet, but I sent you a link, and I think you're going to love it, man. There's some stories in there that folks are just not going to believe. And you and I love old Memphis nostalgia, and I'm still trying to learn more about it, but you lived it and you're all over it. And I think fans will get a kick out of it. So be sure to tune in tonight on Vice.
I was a kid in the candy shop, flew down to Atlanta, and knowing that Dutch, my father, and Lawler and Jimmy Hart, I was literally a fan. I was a fanboy that got to sit amongst four guys that fascinating stories.
I want you to understand what a damn diva Jeff Jarrett is.
We go.
You might not have heard it, but if you were listening closely, flew down to Atlanta. My man lives in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
You're a prick.
That's less than a 5-hour drive.
You are absolutely an Alabama fan.
My God, Jeff flew 200 miles, bro. What do you? Oh, I bet he asked for no brown M&Ms either. Look at this guy, big star.